Asus impressed us a lot with the ZenFone 5Z last year. Its great pricing and top-tier specifications brought the company back into the premium smartphone market. The new Asus 6Z drops the ZenFone name thanks to a recent trademark dispute in India, but this is exactly the same phone as the ZenFone 6, which has been launched internationally and teased here for over a month. The unit we're reviewing is one that Asus provided us in advance, so the ZenFone name is still visible in some spots. While the last-minute name change is unfortunate for Asus, we're still getting a well-priced phone with some seriously powerful hardware and a very innovative rotating camera system that promises to not only eliminate the screen notch, but also give users the best possible quality for selfies. Will this new take on pop-up cameras give Asus the edge it needs to dominate the budget flagship market? Check out our full review. But before we get started, do make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of all our new videos. The front of this phone is completely minimalist with really nothing other than the screen to be seen. The chin is very slightly thicker than the rest of the borders. If you look very closely, you'll see a narrow earpiece at the top, and Asus has even managed to hide a tiny status LED next to it. Of course, the main attraction is the flip-up camera module. When you tap a button in the camera app or trigger face recognition, the module will flip up so the cameras face forwards. The mechanism is a little loud and it takes about 1 second to flip fully. You can also rotate the module manually and have it open at any angle, but more on that later. The blue ringed power button is low down on the left, so it's well within reach, and the volume rocker is right above it. There's also an unusual smart key that's set to trigger various Google Assistant functions, but can be customized to do several other things. There's a USB Type-C port on the bottom, and many people will be very happy to see a 3.5mm audio socket next to it. There's also a speaker which works with the earpiece as a stereo pair. The tray on the left can accommodate 2 nano SIMs and a micro SD card. The glass rear is very easy to smudge, and we aren't too fond of the bright metallic blue Asus logo and text. Our review unit is the midnight black color, and it's almost surprisingly sober. There's also a twilight silver option. As with most budget flagships, there's no wireless charging or IP rating for water and dust resistance. The 6.4-inch screen has a full HD+ 1080 by 2340 resolution. It supports HDR10 with a maximum brightness of 600 nits, and Asus says it can display the full DCI-P3 color space. It's made using Gorilla Glass 6, which is slightly rounded at the sides. We have the top-end Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 processor, just like this phone's prime competitors, the OnePlus 7 and OnePlus 7 Pro. Asus has launched this phone in 3 variants in India. You can get 6GB of RAM with 64 or 128GB of storage, or 8GB of RAM with 256GB of storage. Asus's Android software overlay ZenUI has been stripped down and now looks and functions just like stock Android 9. Our review unit was on the April 2019 security patch, which is just a little disappointing at this stage. You can run 2 instances of several social and messaging apps, lock apps with a PIN, fingerprint or face, give the app switcher button a long press function, and swap the navigation bar for different gesture schemes. There are loads of gestures to set up, including ones that work with the phone in standby. There's more to discover within the Settings app, including screen recorder controls, a manual camera module retractor, OptiFlex, which claims to speed up app launches by keeping them in RAM, and Game Genie, a game mode with the usual optimizations plus social media and streaming integrations. We didn't have any trouble with general performance in our time reviewing the Asus 6Z. The display is huge, crisp, and vibrant. This phone was usable outdoors, and we really appreciated the lack of a notch or hole when watching full-screen videos. HDR works automatically when playing compatible content in video apps. The sound experience is also pretty good. The 2 speakers are not equally balanced, but sound is very loud and there's minimal distortion. We played a few rounds of PUBG Mobile and everything went smoothly. The Asus 6Z has a 5000 mAh battery. Battery life was very good, though Asus's claim of 2 days of non-stop use is still a little optimistic. We were able to stretch to a day and a half with moderate use. Our HD video loop test ran for 14 hours and 22 minutes, which is a little less than we were expecting. But the bundled 18-watt adapter did manage to give us a full charge relatively quickly. The rotating module contains a primary 48-megapixel camera, which is unsurprisingly built around the Sony IMX586 sensor. It delivers 12-megapixel images by default, using 4 pixels as one to maximize the amount of light captured. This camera has an f1.79 aperture. The secondary camera has a 13-megapixel sensor with a 125-degree field of view and automatic distortion correction. Since this phone has no separate front-facing cameras, selfies are taken at the same quality and with all the same options. There's also a dual LED flash, laser autofocus, and 3-axis electronic image stabilization. Video recording goes up to 4K 60fps with the main camera and 4K 30fps with the secondary one. The mechanical camera module does present its share of quirks. The time it takes to flip over facing forwards adds a little delay to face recognition. You also have to wake the phone and then swipe to tap the display to trigger the cameras. Of course, the module can't flip over at all with the 6Z lying flat on a table, so you'll have to use a pin or pattern in such situations. The mechanism is a bit too loud, and the cavity that the module rests in will pick up lint from your pockets in no time at all. We also noticed a slight pause when the camera was supposed to flip its orientation to match its physical position. You can manually raise and lower the module and take photos and videos with it in any position, but this capability is surprisingly buried. You have to use the volume buttons or slide the camera switcher icon up or down. In panorama mode, you can take an automatic 180-degree shot with one tap of the shutter button. You can rotate the module while recording video, which is pretty cool. In motion tracking mode, once you tap to focus on a person, the camera module will rotate automatically to keep them within the frame. This is only possible on one side of the frame and they can't be moving too quickly, so this is more of an amusement than a practical feature. As for photo quality, the Asus 6Z can take some great shots. In daylight, the focus was almost always perfect. Details were generally good, but we've seen better from other phones at this price level with similar cameras and hardware. Portrait mode gave us very convincing depth. Shots taken with the wide-angle camera were usually a bit darker and had poorer detail, which is to be expected. The anti-distortion feature works well. In HDR Plus enhanced mode, the camera takes multiple shots and you have to hold still, but this does make a difference to the vibrancy and exposure balance of captured shots. Low light shots were just slightly disappointing. They were bright and objects could be discerned, but there was a tendency for shots taken at night to come out slightly blurry due to the low shutter speed used. Selfies came out great in the daytime and at night. Even the wide-angle camera works well on faces at arm's length. Video was actually very good. The mechanical noise of the module is picked up when it rotates, and there's also some wobble. Stabilization works very well when the module is fixed in place. 4K video clips are limited to 10 minutes at 30fps and 5 minutes at 60fps. With the primary camera, 4K video came out looking crisp and bright, though it was much darker with the wide-angle camera. Full HD footage also looked very good. Focus stayed locked on objects in motion and we had no trouble with jitter or anything else. Asus has thought of plenty to do with the rotating camera module and has tried to compensate for not having an immediately available front-facing camera, but this might take some getting used to. The main advantages of this design are that you get a clean, notch-free screen and very high-quality selfies. On the downside, face recognition isn't frictionless and the mechanical module does need to be handled with care. Asus is taking on the might of the OnePlus 7 and each configuration of the new 6Z is priced slightly higher. However, there is also a version with just 64GB of storage, which is now India's cheapest phone with the Snapdragon 855 processor. This will be attractive for gamers and it does have a micro SD card slot, which should be more than enough for most people. So what Asus has delivered here is a good all-rounder at attractive prices with a couple of unique features. However, this phone isn't a clear-cut winner over the OnePlus 7. With more aggressive pricing, we would have been more likely to recommend this phone, but we do hope to see it pop up in Asus's frequent sales over the rest of this year. Thanks for watching. That was our review of the new Asus 6Z. For more reviews and videos like this, do visit us at gadgets360.com.